On campaign, Deputy Labor leader Tanya joins us now, along with Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce, who's in Armidale in New South Wales for us. The duel of the deputies. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tanya. Good morning, Deb. How are you?
Very well. Beautiful day in Armidale. Now, Tanya, first off, we must say that the asylum seeker policy of Labor, the protests that you're encountering, it's very much overshadowing the Labor message.
Oh, I don't think it is at all. I mean, we had a public meeting yesterday and someone came into the public meeting and made a point. It's a democracy. I think it's fantastic that people get to speak up in our Australian democracy.
But that grabbed the headlines rather than what Bill Shorten was speaking about.
Well, that's about reporting really, isn't it? This is obviously an issue because there are a lot of people who are very critical of the government's mishandling of this. They're very critical that people have not been resettled off Manus Island and Nauru, that processing times have more than doubled under this government for asylum seekers. So it's not surprising that members of the public speak up.
Labor candidates are also speaking up, though. Are you surprised at how many candidates have actually been publicly opposed to Labor's policy? They've had to toe the party line.
Well, actually, they're publicly opposed to the government's policy, which is indefinite detention on Manus Island and Nauru. And what I'd say is our policy is to make sure we stop the boats, but that we are compassionate, that we bring more people. There are 61 million displaced people around the world, and we need to make sure that we are looking after our fair share of those people, but that we bring them here safely, that we don't allow the boats to restart.
Will you be softening Labor's stance?
No, absolutely not. We've made it very clear that we will continue to make sure that the boats don't restart, that we're not putting people smugglers back into business because they are wicked people who take advantage of desperate people from around the world. But that, on the other hand, we also need to be aware of doing our fair share as a strong country and a wealthy country. There's a great deal of need in the world and we're not doing our share at the moment, and letting people face indefinite detention on Manus Island and Nauru is not something we ever contemplated when we set up these centres.
All right, we'll see what sort of reaction Bill Shorten gets on the ongoing campaign to that. Barnaby, over to you now. You're being singled out by dairy farmers who say that their industry is very much in crisis due to cuts to milk prices by these big processors, Fonterra and Murray Goulburn. There was an appeal from two farmers who appeared on our show yesterday. Take a look.
To me, Barnaby Joyce seems like a can-do kind of guy. I honestly think if we could sit down with Barnaby Joyce for an hour and just discuss what the factory's actually doing to us, we could get this retrospective payment stopped immediately and stop it from happening in the future, and then we can sit down and talk about the future and where we need to go in the dairy industry.
Pretty blunt there, Barnaby. You're campaigning on the Wombat in Victoria, in their backyard this week. Can you help them?
Well, definitely. What we're going to do is I'll first of all get on the phone tomorrow and start talking to the processors and also the retailers. They also went through in that interview the comparison between the price of a bottle of water and the price of a bottle of milk, and this is something that I think is anathema. I think it's incredibly wrong that water basically in a bottle is priced more than milk, and I think we have to have a strong yarn to the retailers about this and basically ask them that if they want to fix it, that would be great. If they don't, then they ask the government to fix it, which they always complain about. But that's an option that we can always keep up our sleeve.
Would you support a levy on shoppers?
No, I'll make sure that we go down there and have a yarn to them first before we suggest anything, Deb. I've already made sure that farm household allowance, we've changed the regulations on that so it's more available. Mum and dads on these farms can get up to $1,000 a fortnight just to keep groceries on the table. We have concessional loans available and made sure that rural financial counsellors are also there. We've made recommendations to the ACCC for this to be further investigated, and that's not enough. I will, on Tuesday, get down there and sit down with these people and have a yarn to them. I can completely understand the grief that they're going through, and I want to make sure that we do what's ever in our power. In fact, I was talking to some of my political people, well, not people from my political side, but had a long conversation with other people from the other side of the political fence on the weekend, because this is something that's vitally important and we've got to make sure we do something about it.
Is that enough, Tanya?
Just going back to what Tanya said before about the...
very happy to take credit when beef prices go up, but when milk prices go down, he's missing in action. Now, I know that there are investigations underway on this issue at the moment, but at the very least, thousands of them very badly affected by this, should be getting the support of their government for financial counselling services, mental health support services if they need it.
Well, Tanya,
do you cop
criticism
that you're not doing enough, Barnaby?
Well, why is he not
first of all,
there
I'd say
this
that, Tanya, we actually are making sure that we are making sure that there is the capacity for people to get access to money through farm household allowance. We're doing that, Tanya. Concessional loans, we're doing that. Rural financial counsellors, Tanya, we're doing that. I haven't quite heard what the Labor Party policy is on anything to do with agriculture, but it's just like it's invisible to you, and agriculture just doesn't exist, except for your policy to bring in new federal tree clearing police, which is going to absolutely excite people all across our nation to thought that would have federal tree police all over our places to go with the state ones. That's a great policy, Tanya. And just going back to your position on the boats, Tanya, you know that the position that Bill Shorten's enunciating is not your position, Tanya, and it better not be your position if you're going to stand in a seat against the Greens. You know that. Everybody knows that. You're playing a game of cards with both spades and hearts at Trump's, and it just doesn't wash, Tanya.
All right. Barnaby, you were called a can-do guy by the dairy farmers who were on the show yesterday. Will you be a can-do guy on this other controversial issue in the bush, the idea of a backpacker tax? Will you kill this tax off altogether, or will we just see it being delayed until after the election?
We want to make sure that we fix the issue. I think everybody knows that both myself, the Prime Minister and the Treasurer have been in close negotiations about this. We will come to a resolution on this. Is it gone? And we will allow us the time to make sure that we'll have to get the legislation ultimately. We have to do a delay and then have to get the legislation ultimately to get a fairer fit. I don't quite know what Tanya's position is on this. You might like to ask her after we're finished. So if she wants to suggest what her government...
Deb, you know what?
Yep.
It can't be gone as far as Barnaby's concerned when there's hundreds of millions of dollars booked as savings in the federal budget for this backpacker tax. Once again, Barnaby Joyce has been missing in action. There are bush communities suffering here. Joel Fitzgibbon,
what is your position on this?
Well, Joel Fitzgibbon, who's our Shadow Minister, has said that we will deal with this in government. We know that the backpackers have already stopped coming. They're going to Canada and New Zealand instead. There are communities that rely on these agricultural seasonal workers. We need to do a much better job in making sure that those farmers,
they always say you should ask them 3 times, what is your position?
Get the support they need.
You're doing my job for me, Barnaby. Come on. Well, what is Labor's stance, though? Will you be supporting a backpacker tax or not?
Well, we've said that Joel Fitzgibbon, our Shadow Minister, has said that he'll work with the affected communities to make sure that they have the labour they need. But
I don't think I'm getting from either of you.
It's a bit rich from Barnaby.
What does that mean,
He's actually
Tanya?
part of a government that has introduced
people.
a new tax that has got hundreds of millions of dollars of savings from this tax in the federal budget. It was only released a week ago. If he was going to change it, he could have changed it a week ago.
Well, it's a big issue for residents in the bush. We'll find out.
Thank you for clearly announcing your position, Tanya, whatever it was.
Well, you haven't made it clear whether you'll kill it off either, Barnaby.
He could have fixed it a week ago. The federal budget was 1 week ago.
All right,
if he was serious about it.
All right, now listen.
It looks like your position on the boat people is the same as your position on the backpacker tax. You haven't got a clue.
There's been speculation too, Tanya, in the papers this morning, a very flattering photo or not, perhaps, of Anthony Albanese, with a Kill Bill out of Uma Thurman out of that film, saying that he potentially will kill off Bill Shorten for the top job if Shorten loses the election, if there is a spill announced. What's your position? Will you announce? Will you run? Throw your hat in the ring?
I'm planning on taking Barnaby's job. I'm planning on being the Deputy Prime Minister.
Tanya, this is another time we just need to know your position. Your position, Tanya, not mine.
Would you throw your hat in the ring, though, for leadership?
You are.
I'm planning, as I say, on being the Deputy Prime Minister in a Shorten Labor government.
And in that scenario doesn't play out, will you put your hat in the ring?
That's 3 strikes. Boat people, backpackers tax, and your position on Bill. 3 strikes and you're out, Tanya.
All right, Barnaby, you've been very busy on the campaign trail. We know it's the Wombat Trail from the Nationals, which is always a bit of a different route that you follow, but you've been having a bit of fun while you've been out there as well. We saw this picture of you on the Twitter feed, standing on the bar. Where were you when this picture was taken?
Well, Walker was kept out of the council amalgamations. It's great. I played rugby for Walker, Deb, and so it's my community. And to go up there and celebrate with the people from Walker and making sure that we keep Walker as its own identity. Armidale's a great city, but it's not Armidale. Tamworth's a great city, but it's not Tamworth. We fought, we won, and we celebrated that night. And it was great to be with all my mates and all the other guys I used to play football with and the people I grew up with. And There's only a few times you get to dance on a bar in a pub, but that was one of them.
I reckon you've danced on a bar of a pub many a time over the years, Barnaby. Don't underplay this.
The only surprise in that is that he was standing still, not dancing or singing. The only surprise in that photo, I reckon. But I'd like to say to Barnaby,
Tanya, you can
one of the
join me.
announcements
You can
we made
join me.
this
We can
week
dance
was
on the bar
$1.8
together.
billion extra for schools funding for regional and rural schools. And if he's doing this tour of country areas, he should explain to people why he doesn't want extra money to go into their schools, including in his own electorate of New England, $28 million extra over the next 2 years. Why he doesn't think
people in
schools deserve
TV
that.
land there, what Tanya's doing now is she's pivoting off the boat people, which she has no answer for, pivoting off the backpackers, which she has no answer for, and pivoting on the fact that she's going to take Bill Shorten's job, which she does have an answer for, but she doesn't want to tell you.
Well, you've put the challenge out to her, though, in terms of the dancing on the bar. What are we expecting to see from you, Tanya? Any city bars that we might see you on the...
There'll be no dancing on bars, I can tell you that. There'll be a lot of celebrating on election night if we get there, but it'll involve no dancing on bars.
All right, well, we will keep in touch with both of you during the course of this campaign. We'll see how you go with the Victorian dairy farmers this week, Barnaby, whether you are that can-do guy.
Yeah, about time he shows up.
That's serious. That's serious. I'm looking forward to getting down there. It's very important, and I'll be down there on Tuesday. We'll be on the phone tomorrow for them, and I'll try my very best to do whatever I can to help them.
All right, Tanya Plibersek, Barnaby Joyce, thanks so much for joining us this morning.